Alright, so I got the notes. What the hell is in the chat? So what is it saying? What's up? Welcome to another episode of Bitches Love Sports. I'm Bitch 2.
I'm 21.
And as usual, trying to figure shit out. If you've been watching since the break, no, I've been trying various things in terms of broadcasting. As you can see, we are not in the studio. We are here back on S. Payne's couch. There's a whole
My personal studio.
right. There's a whole thing going on in the studio. No bad blood or anything, nothing like that. Nothing's gone wrong. Things just changed. The studio that we were using was run by a nonprofit organization, and they had to make some changes. And hopefully one day we'll get back in there. Right now we're not. But in anticipation of that happening, because I don't know if a lot of y'all remember, but the Brian brought us in that studio. And so when that got canceled last minute, I was like, we need to make sure that we're good to go in situations like that. So if you've been watching the past few weeks, you've probably seen me do some very impromptu shows, all in an attempt to practice different ways of doing like lighting and broadcasting and using different sources for cameras and different sources for sound, to just kind of figure out within our current budget what we can do to still put out a good show, even though we don't currently have access to the studio as often. So with that being the case, right now we're using one mic. We thought we were going to have two. This is like the second time in the past month that this has happened. Where I'm like, I thought we'd have two. We have one. So if you cannot hear Elena, please let me know so we can try to make some sort of adjustment.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Please say yes.
Yeah, Martin, let us know if you can hear Elena.
Martin, can you hear me?
I'm like, I know Martin will let us know. So if you cannot hear Elena, let us know, and we'll do what we can to fix that. What else? So yeah, we're gonna try to be consistent with the time so that people can make plans to watch us. So Tuesdays at 6 o'clock Central is our current. That's the time that we're going with right now. And as you can see, even today, a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was like a lot to set up. Part of it was because I just had a lot to talk to my friend about, because like this is my first time seeing her since the last time y'all saw me with her. So there was a lot to catch up on. And then just in terms of setup. So that's why I said like technical difficulties. But yeah, moving forward, it'll be 6 o'clock. And then I also want to try to do an extra show that'll be Cowboys only on Fridays. Now I say that, but we're already in a situation where Friday I'm going to be at an anime convention, so I don't really know yet if I'll have time to do that extra show. And then next Tuesday, I'm going to be in Frisco away from Elena again. And on Monday, we're supposed to have a special guest, so there probably won't be a show on Tuesday. And then I'm supposed to have another special guest on Thursday, so there might not be a show on Friday. It's a new schedule. There's already various things that are causing us to have to adjust.
Keep your eyes peeled. We'll be out here at some
Yeah,
point and
well,
just come to the couch.
we'll always announce it. So yeah, just keep watching Twitter like y'all do. Thank you so much. Also, shout out to all our new followers. We're up to almost 4,000 followers on Twitter. Thank you. And on YouTube, our goal is 500 subscribers. We'd like to get to 500 before week 1 of the season. So that gives us just a couple of weeks to get 192 more followers. So
Help us out.
the word.
Cheap plug. Help us out.
Yeah, the 5 of y'all in here, y'all could, make that 10. Tell a friend. So yeah, I think that's where we are with announcements for the show. I don't think anything else exciting is happening. I guess outside of that, just like huge shout out to Cowboys Nation. I've had a couple of conversations with people about like why we started covering the Cowboys so much, and it's just like when a fan base embraces you the way the Cowboys have, it's hard to not, kind of get more into the content that appeals to that fan base. Still cover other sports for people who are wondering.
We are today, bitch.
We definitely are because S Pain is very excited.
I
Um,
can't wait for my section.
um, but what was I saying? Fuck. ADHD. There we go.
I don't know because I forgot either.
Oh yeah.
Why are we talking so much Cowboys?
Yeah. So yeah, people have asked like why we ended up doing so much Cowboys content. But it's just like not only has the fan base embraced us, other content creators have been so supportive. Like when it comes to the things that we cover, like I don't think we've gotten support or for any other team as we have with, people from Cowboys Nation. And I mean literally just wanting nothing in return, no compensation. Everybody from people like Voch Lombardi and Will Still to, Knicks and the guys over at Pick Six Sports, Dom White and them, Brian Broaddus. Like, I've had conversations about football with Aisha Morrison of Girls Talk, Boys Talk. So just like everybody has been so helpful and so supportive, and they make it fun to cover the team. It was already fun. We were having fun. Yeah, like we found our favorite players. One of them for Elena, who we're going to talk about
God damn
today.
it, I'm so sad.
You gonna be a Pats fan now?
Hey, fuck no!
No,
Fuck no!
you're not gonna keep
Fuck
tabs up.
no! Fuck the
It's not
Patriots.
his fault.
No, I know it's not his fault. I'm really sad about it. I was hoping
All
that he was
right,
gonna get back, but
Zeke found a new team, but apparently it's still fuck the Patriots. You heard it here
fuck the
first.
Patriots. And I'm gonna repeat it as many times as needed.
Fuck the
No.
Patriots, including Zeke, or fuck the Patriots except
No,
Zeke.
except Zeke.
Except Zeke. All right, at
For
least
now,
there's.
I'll shit out, dog.
We'll see what
We'll have
happens.
words afterwards.
We'll see what happens week 4 because I'm feeling some strong energy here. I don't know. It might be fuck Zeke by the time we get to week 4.
God, it's so sad. I was so sad.
Jose says they can hear us both. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so like we found our favorite players. We were having fun, and then one day somebody was like, "Hey, you should start going to Knicks' spaces," and Knicks was very supportive and was like, come be a co-host and, let me practice talking about football. And then just from there, we've met so many awesome people who's created graphics for us and
Yes.
helped us get
Thanks,
engagement
y'all.
with players on Twitter and all sorts of stuff. Martin's been a source of tea in a couple of situations.
You are.
So it's
Mad respect for you, dog.
it's
Mad
been
respect for
awesome.
you.
So when people ask like, why do you have a Cowboys only show now and no other sport is getting its own show? That's a big reason why. And I've reached out to people for help with other sports. I won't really go into which ones, but I have reached out for support for other teams and for other sports, and it hasn't happened in the same way. So I'm like,
It just didn't
here we
happen as
are.
organically as it does with a
It didn't
Cowboys.
happen at all. It didn't happen at all.
I was trying to
Even
be nice. I was trying to sell it.
like
But you just
I'm like
completely
I
threw me
understand
under
certain
the
things
bus.
don't happen organically, and that's why I reached out to people and I literally said, hey, I would like to cover better. Can you help me understand the fan base? Like you've been a fan of this team for a long time. I want to know how to engage with them and do a better job of covering this team. I feel like they deserve more coverage, and nothing. Nothing. They keep you out. There's gatekeepers for sports that like
Classic
how
ghosting.
your audience isn't even big enough for you to have a gate. Oh, never. Never mind.
Let's
I'm gonna go too far.
Let's just keep on moving on the next subject.
You're right. Let's keep on moving to the next subject, which is shout outs and call outs.
Hey.
So something else y'all might see different with shout outs and call outs is that we're not doing 30 and 45 minutes of shout outs and call outs anymore.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Um,
This is hope.
unless some crazy shit happens. Every now and then the sports world just decides to. But today we have 3. So I think I have like pictures and videos to go with these. So like y'all are just gonna have to bear with me. I'm not as cool. I asked a couple of people about like how they do like smooth transitions, and just apparently it involves using a whole nother platform besides the one that we're using. So bear with me. The first one goes to. Let me see if I can pull up this picture. Mm-mm. When you like theme music, when it's gonna do it again.
This is the video.
Okay,
or a
it's a picture.
picture.
Because the first shout out goes to the NFL and the National Federation of State High School Associations. So basically, the NFL is partnering with the organization that governs high school football officials. According to the press release, they said they have created what is, according to the NFL, quote, a new initiative to increase participation in and recognition of high school football officials that will be piloted with 7 NFL clubs during the 2023 season. They said the NFL has identified 3 major areas of support: recognition, mentorship, and campaign support. And the participating clubs will work with surrounding NFHS member state high school associations to fulfill the initiative's mission. So basically, the NFL is going to be focusing on recruitment and retention of high school football officials. They're also going to arrange for qualified people to come in and train and mentor and educate high school officials. And so the press release goes on. In affiliation with respective state associations, the participating NFL clubs will recognize youth and high school officials across their states in the months of September, October, and November. Recipients will be highlighted for their demonstration of objectivity, fairness in rules implementation, and commitment as high school football officials. In association with Nike, crews will also receive apparel and uniform items to keep them outfitted on the field. Across all participating markets, 9 officiating crews each month will be nominated as the crew of the month, with the winner being recognized. So you should be able to go to playfootball.com and learn more about what the NFL is trying to do to help and assist and train and recruit and retain high school football officials. But I went to the website and there was nothing there yet. So maybe give it
I know instruction.
time.
Do you remember old internet when you went to a website and it wasn't ready and just had the triangles and the
No,
construction?
it's actually worse than that. There's a whole website up, but they talk about everything but officials. So they're just like, oh yeah, we're doing all this shit for officials. Go check out the website. And it's like, we forgot to put the officials on the website. But
Plastic everywhere.
but shout out to our friend Jen, who is a high school football official.
Shout out to you, dog. You're doing the most. You're doing great. You're
She's
doing so fucking
crushing it.
awesome. You're crushing it.
So yeah, if this becomes a thing, we might have to bring her on the show and get her opinion on it. But yeah, and we've got all shout outs today. Nobody to call out, so that's good. So our next shout out goes to, oh shit, I lost this video. Hold on. Elena's gonna keep. This is the most distracting thing ever. It's really not a smooth transition. It's not a smooth transition at all.
It's smooth. It's smooth to me. It's coming, y'all. It's coming. Y'all hold. I'm looking. I'm
Wait,
watching.
where is it? Hold on.
Don't call yourself out. I'm trying to help. She is almost there. She almost there. Martin, I know, right? You see that transition, Martin? Did you like that?
Oh goodness.
Where are we? Where are we going? Over there, moving that over here, and we're almost. Oof. There's just one thing in the way. There you go. Good
No, actually,
job.
I gotta go back,
Oh,
and
never
now
mind.
it's gotta play these
Never
ads.
mind. Listen to that, and after the ad, you're almost there. Almost. There you go. Nice. Look at
Okay.
you. Getting shit done. Come in, keeping talking.
Why is it making us watch another
I
ad?
don't know. I was just like, just play it. Just play the ad, I guess.
All right, let's see an ad about killing flies.
We might get a different one now. Who knows?
Who knows? We have no idea what ad is about to come up, y'all. It'll be a surprise.
Oh,
It's an ad about
Love
an
Island.
island.
Love Island.
Is that what that
I
is?
don't know. I don't know. Is
It's
there
an
Airbnb?
Expedia.
Oh, Expedia.
No,
Airbnb.
Airbnb. You're right. All
Boy.
right. We'll have another guessing game later for y'all to play along. So our next shout out goes to the USA basketball men's national team for winning all of their exhibition games so far.
Nice.
So Team USA will have played Slovenia, Spain, Greece, and Germany in a span of 8 days. So far they beat Puerto Rico, Slovenia, and Spain. And they have 2 more exhibition contests, which will take place in Abu Dhabi, one against Greece this Friday, and one against Germany this Sunday. And so we'll be covering them in the World Cup. Because we've got a few favorites on the team to watch. So we've got Bobby Portis of the former Suns, now Nets. They're part of the new Nets. Like after the Nets imploded. You know what's so funny about that situation? It's like they came from Phoenix and they're on a team that basically burned to the ground and then was like reborn.
Uh-huh.
You get it?
Uh-huh. Re-emerging from your ashes. You're
Right.
trying. You're trying to do it.
So yeah, Mikal Bridges and Cam Jordan, two of my favorites ever. I love those guys. And then we've got the Lakers postseason standout Austin Reeves is on that team, and Steve Kerr is a head coach, one of my favorite NBA coaches, and
Yeah.
Ty Lue is one of the assistants. So good group there. The Team USA will play the first of three World Cup group games in the Philippines against New Zealand on August 26th, followed by Greece on August 28th, and Jordan on August 30th. So the squad is looking to bounce back from a seventh place finish at the 2019 World Cup, which was its worst showing in 15 major tournaments since USA Basketball began incorporating NBA players for the Olympics in 1992. So yeah,
And that's without a lot of stars that they didn't even go. So
yeah, and that's kind of the thing. It's like all the stars they kind of focus on the Olympics now, and so that's why for the World Cup you don't see names that you see during the Olympics, like the Devin Bookers of the world, for example. Um,
just to name one.
yes, I was trying to think
Out
of
of all the ones
I was trying to think of
that
other people, but I'm just like, what? I'm like, well, Giannis, he doesn't play for Team USA, and then I'm like, oh, well, Jokic also does not play for Team USA, and so I was like trying to, like, Devin Booker was the only one that I came up with. Oh, Jason Tatum,
like,
also
oh,
Bay, yeah.
yeah. I
Um,
thought that was gonna be the first time coming out of your
sorry,
mouth.
we haven't done NBA in a minute, so I'm rusty when it comes to like names, you know. So I'm just like Devin Booker, Devin is Bay. That's if I remember no other names, I will remember that one. Um, okay, so let's see if we can make this next transition quicker.
Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. Go for it.
It's
All
a big
right.
party in my hometown. It's happening right now for the like. It started a couple days ago and it lasts like 5 days.
Yes.
And everybody was like fans. But this is I don't know if this is really used here, but it's a very Spaniard thing. Like everybody and their grandma has like asados and
Really?
nowadays at home. Hell yeah. This is from my mom's work. This is the merch that they give away.
So fans are like a party thing, kind of like umbrellas in New Orleans.
Umbrellas? Umbrellas? They give
Have I not
umbrellas?
told you about what a second line is?
I don't think so.
Oh, we might have to do a cultural episode of Bitches
All
Love
right,
Sports,
let's do it.
so we can talk about umbrellas and second lines and fans and
Yeah.
is there a certain name for the celebration that they do, or is it just a
Oh,
party?
each town, because well, it's a Catholic country, so each town has their own saint or patron. So they celebrate them for like 5 days straight. So you party for 5 days straight.
Okay,
Let me tell
we're
you,
gonna
if
talk
you're
about
young
that
enough, you know what I mean.
more
We're talking
in
about
our
it.
next segment. Your segment is coming up right after this shot. It is a roller derby zine, and Volume 3 just dropped, featuring several skaters who have also made their way into other arenas of entertainment. So we start off with Original Sin of Red Stick Roller Derby, and the
Woo!
next page
Red Stick fucking
has
crushing it, by the way. Shout out to them. They
right. They
fucking
came back from the pandemic
holy shit.
ready to like they have points to prove.
They're playing Texas in September, and I cannot
Wait,
wait.
A level?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay, that should be interesting. All right, well, shout out to Red Stick, shout out to Hellskate, and shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Original Sin of Red Stick. I might have to go catch y'all skating in Texas. Cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be a fun one to go watch because they're playing there. They're playing the Baton Rouge.
nice. Next page we've got Gabe Montesanti, who's a writer and author, as well as a skater. And then, oh shit, it's me. So, Hellskate was nice enough to feature me and talk about the podcast in the zine. So I think I retweeted this. If I didn't, I will definitely retweet it again. It's not a long article. You probably won't learn anything about me that you haven't already heard, but shout out to Hellskate for promoting the show. Much appreciated. And if you are a fan of roller derby and roller derby culture, this is definitely a good zine to catch out. There's great artwork. Um, awesome skaters get highlighted, not just for what they do on the track, but for also for the awesome things that they do off the track. So yeah, definitely check them out. And that's it for shout outs and call outs. Three good shout outs. What is, although I feel like we could call out some people if we really wanted to. But we're just not going to go there today. Today we're going to focus on what there is to celebrate. So, if you'd like to talk about soccer, because I'm not going to.
Well, first off, shout out to the Spain team of the Women's World Cup for making history 3 games ago by making it out of the first knockout round for the first time ever. And we're going to the finals, y'all. What the fuck? Listen, if this is another 2010, I'm gonna cry. I'm just gonna let you know. I'm gonna
What
cry.
happened in 2010?
We won the World Cup. The only World Cup
Okay.
Spain has ever won. South Africa. Ooh, what's up? The best win ever. Just a few things. The Philippines scored their first ever goal, men's, women's, anybody in any World Cup, and that was huge. Like everybody was going fucking bananas everywhere. All my social media was filled with videos of like everybody just losing it. It was really fun. What else? Yeah, we made history. I am so excited about that, y'all. Like, and the last 2 games have been so much fun. I didn't watch the last one on time, like while it was happening because it was at 3 a.m. But I watched most of it after. And let me tell y'all, like, it was weird because I don't know. We touched on it last year. Kind of went on strike. I don't know if that's legal to say.
I think you can say it about Spain.
FIFA or not. But anyways, they went on strike because they were like, not happy with the coaching and like they had some issues. So 15 of them left. So I was a little, a little hesitant. I was a little, I don't know, worried is the word, but Anyways, now we're
Concerned.
here. We're concerned. That is a better word. So now we're here at the finals. We already beat Sweden, which Spain and Sweden after the last 2 games were the ones to be picked to win, and now Sweden is out. So let me talk all these games, and then we're gonna start the finals. But anyways, the U.S. Sorry, I'm sorry, y'all, but all the hype and everything. Honestly, I think that hype kind of fucked them up too.
Oh, for sure. I actually talked about this. What day did I go live recently, y'all? Was that, I don't remember, a few days ago. But yeah, I think they definitely need a cultural change. Because it's like you've got a lot of new people on the team, but I think some of the people who've been around a long time, like Rapino, definitely carried this attitude of like, we're the US, we got this. Um,
Wow.
and I think that can affect how people approach practices and how people approach games. Um,
I mean, there's this like thing here also, like this. Well, I mean, like sports in this
Saturday,
country.
thank you, Martin.
It's culture, right? Like it's just it's
Oh
super
yeah,
competitive.
sports is like one of our biggest exports.
I mean, clearly that's why we're here. Why would we even be here if it wasn't for it? But it's just weird to me. Like there was this quote because they beat the Netherlands.
I think
The
so.
Netherlands, but that was in the group. It wasn't knockout round yet. But one of the players came out and said like, y'all should like check yourselves before. Like they were all coming in like, oh yeah, we're gonna win, like that.
I do remember somebody saying something about them like talking about the championship before they even got out the group
got
stage.
there, yes.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I mean. It's like that's why whenever you have so many new players coming in, your veteran players either need to be one of three things is going to happen, right? When you have veteran players who have been around that long, either they're going to support the new culture, which takes like leadership skills, it takes a sense of awareness, and
Why
it
would
takes
it be a new
humility.
culture,
Huh?
Why would it be a new culture?
It would be a new culture because you have new people.
Well, you can stick with the culture though.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because it's like if the old culture worked with the old group, right? New people coming in, that culture might not work for them. It might not. Now it could, but you might need kind of like a refresh to get people on the same page in terms of how hard they might need to train, practice, and get on the same page in terms of confident in the idea that they're going to a championship. Because and I haven't really watched a ton of interviews from people besides like Rapino, right? But I'm just saying this is a thing that happens where you might have a group that's seen success, you get a bunch of new people, but everybody who's still there from that experience of success, they still have that mindset of like, oh, we got this. And so that starts to spill over to new people who haven't actually experienced that yet. So they start thinking like, we got this, even though they've never been there. They've never been to a championship, they've never won a World Cup, yada, yada, yada. But then they started adopting that same attitude when the truth is like, no, actually, you need to be busting your ass right now.
I mean, listen, but that's culture here too. That's how pretty much a lot of sports
But that's what
America
I'm saying.
teams
That's why I'm like they need
culture
to adopt a
is.
new culture, or what I just
I just think
described
they
as
need
something.
chemistry. They just need chemistry. They just never played together like that before.
But I think building chemistry is part of the work that you got to put in. Like building chemistry sometimes does take work. It
Oh,
takes
I
practice to
agree.
build
I agree. But if
cohesiveness.
you want to get as far as the dynasty before this one got, like you gotta put in the fucking work.
Yeah, yeah. On that we agree. So
um,
anyway, go ahead.
yeah. The other one, Jamaica. Jamaica went and had to set up a GoFundMe for them to actually make it to the World Cup, and they fucking killed it, and they fucking took out Brazil out of all teams.
That's wild.
That is really fucking wild. They made history. Morocco made history. Philippines made history. Spain made history. Jamaica made history. And the last but not least is, the payouts is not was still fighting for somewhat of a more equal pay. Um, on the 2019 World Cup on the women's, the prize was 30 million, where the men's
$100 million.
gets more.
Really, 200 million.
Gets more.
500 million.
400. 400
That's
mil.
wild. Compared to
Yeah.
30. That's
Compared to
crazy.
30. Yeah.
So what is it this year?
This year is 140 for the women, and the men only went out 40. So 440 total.
Okay, so closing the gap, but that's still a pretty big
But
gap.
still is
$300 million.
That's a lot of money. But anyways, I just want to shout out Paul Gasol for making it for the Hall of Fame. Woo! Go Spain!
And so now everybody's partying for 5 days.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Oh, but that's just in my hometown though, right now.
And that is why I'm drinking gin and tonic,
Okay.
but Elena is having some sort of beer. What is it?
Oh yeah, well I'm having my Spain beer, Estrella. Hey,
There we go. Does that say damn?
damn.
Dumb. Okay. It's like Australia. Damn. I'm like.
Estrella, damn. No, it's just Estrella. Well, Estrella in Spain. I don't know how you would say it here, but
Okay.
Estrella. Anyways, it's great. If you find it anywhere.
Australia beer. Okay, so the last bit of news before we get into Cowboy stuff is WNBA updates. We might have had a picture for this. I don't know. Whatever. No picture. The Commissioner's Cup
No
final.
smooth transition for this.
The Commissioner's Cup final is tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern between the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty. It will air on Amazon Prime. Um, this is what some website, I think it was ESPN, had to say about the Commissioner's Cup. It is the most significant aspect of the cup.
I was like,
Actually,
damn, what else are you talking about?
significant ass. Um, the most significant aspect of the cup actually is cold hard cash. The final has a prize of $500,000 for the players, which is like one game check for an NBA player. But anyway,
100,000.
the Commissioner's Cup final has a prize pool of $500,000 for the players. Yay! The winning team players receive $30,000 each, and the losing team's players get $10,000 each, with at least $165,000 in charitable donations made on behalf of all 12 teams throughout the season series. The Aces play for the
So they're paying
national.
themselves.
Huh?
Is that what you said?
No. What?
You said they're getting money that they donated throughout the season?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no,
I was
no,
like,
no.
so they're paying, they're
No.
like
So
saving
there's
to get
prize
paid.
money
Wait.
for the they're saving to get paid. There's prize money for the players, and then there's also donations that come from all. So the Las Vegas Aces are playing for the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Southern Nevada, and the Liberty are playing for the Callan Lord Community Health Center, which provides services for New York's LGBTQIA plus community.
Nice.
So all good causes. It'll happen tonight between those two super teams. Um, it's interesting just thinking about where these two teams were before the season started because everybody was just like, oh my God, like the final is going to come down to them. And now the New York Liberty, they seem relatively normal. Whereas the Aces are just still kicking ass. They lost Candace Parker and they're still just like, whatever. Like they're almost more dominant. Not saying that Candace is not a good player, but it's just like they have shown their determination to accelerate throughout the season. Because they lost Candace Parker and then it's like they had one loss against, I don't remember who, it might have been the Liberty, but then it's like they came back and they kicked the Wings ass. Like I thought it was going to be a competitive game because like all season the series had been really competitive between the Aces and the Wings. You know, surprisingly competitive considering the power rankings the Wings had gotten before the season.
Yeah.
And the Wings even won the game. So I'm watching that game. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be close. It's gonna be so fun to watch. And it's like the Aces were like, no, it's not. This is not gonna be fun to watch. We about to put y'all to sleep because we're gonna blow this team out. And I was just like, okay, well, the WNBA playoffs should be fun if you're a fan of Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces. But yeah, we'll definitely the Aces are the Monstars. Yes, yes. When I first started watching her, when I first started paying attention to her during the Olympics a couple years ago, um, and she was phenomenal then. It was her first Olympics, but you could not tell from the way she played. Like she came out there and she played like she was a vet. She was a big part of the reason why they got that gold medal in the summer of 2021, and she's just been accelerating ever since. And she's hilarious, and she's so awesome on social media. I really hate that people kind of made a big deal about the jokes that were happening between her and Mikal Bridges because I thought they were super cute. And then people made a big deal about it, and now they don't joke anymore on Twitter, and that makes me sad. Um, but Asa said,
Y'all
watch this
keep
for
joking.
real.
Y'all keep joking.
Yeah, the Aces are no joke, not at
They
all.
are not.
And people can say what they want about Becky Hammond, but I'm just like, whatever she's said, to my knowledge, she's apologized or atoned for. And then it's just like when you look at good coaches, if we take gender out of the equation,
Yeah.
there are coaches who have said worse. If we're being honest, I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm just saying like when it comes to great coaches and how they handle their teams, there's definitely like this recurring theme of like sometimes these coaches are a little bit of a hard ass.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not nice all the time. Sometimes they say things that the average person might be like, that hurts my feelings or that makes me feel away.
You saw.
Um, and the coaches that seem to get it done just kind of have an approach that says, fuck all that. We trying to win. You know, if you want to feel good, you know, go to the club. If you want to win, get in here and get. Becky Hammond learned from one of the best, Greg Popovich. So I'm not about to sit here as an onlooker and bystander and have the audacity to question her coaching style when she got trained by Greg Popovich, and he still gives her props. It's not like she learned under
Yeah.
him and then she left and he's like, I don't know that
Oh
bitch.
no.
It's like he
Yeah.
still to this day is
Yeah.
like, oh no, Becky's a shit. I'm proud of her. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, hey,
Yeah.
you got it, you got it. And even people like Steve Kerr, people try to act like Steve Kerr isn't a hard ass. I'm like, we're talking about the man who punched Michael Jordan in
In
the
the
face.
face, bro.
So I'm just like, I don't know how he talks to his team, but I just have to believe that if you are willing to punch Michael Jordan in the face and you're not even a starter on the team, Steve Kerr
Bro.
was not a starter.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr had like a couple of cool shots and clutch moments, but like he definitely was. He wasn't even on Scottie Pippen level to just be hitting Michael Jordan. But he was like, "Fuck you! I'm not gonna let you talk to me like that." So I'm like, I have to believe he has an edge, you know. So there's just something about these coaches that get the job done, that they just seem to have that thing where it's like they might smile in front of the cameras, but when it comes to how they interact with their teams, yeah, they will put their foot down and say what's on their mind.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's WNBA news. We'll definitely be covering the playoffs as they roll around. So yeah, that's everything, and that brings us at Cowboys news at the 35-minute mark. Look at that. That's what happens when we narrow down the shout outs and call outs.
For
Okay.
now.
So for right now, so this is the part where we don't have show notes. So we're just kind of gonna go with it. So we started off the show talking about this guy who no longer wears this number. He's gonna wear this color, but with an accent color. It's gonna be red. Um, Ezekiel Elliott, a fave or a former fave of S Payne here, has signed a 1 year deal with the New England Patriots. Hold on,
He got a good contract.
let me pull up the details on it. Let's see what ESPN has to say. Um, Elliott agreed to terms with the Patriots on a 1 year deal, helping address one of the thinnest positions on the roster, a source confirmed to ESPN. Elliott's 1 year deal with the Patriots includes a $3 million base salary and a $1 million signing bonus that can be worth up to $6 million with incentives, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter. So that what that right there tells me is that whatever issue it was with the Cowboys, it wasn't strictly about money, which if you pay attention, duh. Like, and by pay attention, I mean like there are literally sources you can go to hear from people in the building. And one of the people I'm thinking of specifically right now is Patrick Nosey Walker. I've heard him speak on the Ezekiel Elliott situation with the Cowboys all off season, basically. And he's never seemed to be off point when it comes to that. And he said weeks ago that the idea of Ezekiel Elliott going back to the Cowboys was being overhyped, and that coming from Jerry Jones just doing what Jerry Jones does. But in actuality, it was not going to happen, and that it wasn't about money. He said that.
Just
And
growing
now here
up
we
in
are.
my I know.
This man signed a 1 year, $3 million deal. So just to recap that, 1 year, $3 million, a $1 million signing bonus worth up to $6 million with incentives. That's not a lot, and it's nowhere near like what he was getting with the Cowboys. So it's like if you were willing to make that same deal with the Cowboys, then that tells you, um,
I just feel so sad for the dude. I mean, I feel sad for him, but like, as a Cowboys fan, like him and TP were so good together. We're so good together.
they were good together,
Oh.
but I think Zeke's style doesn't really fit what Mike McCarthy is trying to do with this offense. And I also think the politics of trying to ensure that he got a certain number of touchdowns and a certain number of yards and a certain number of first downs, I think that also muddied the waters. Now, could he have fit in? Maybe, but I just think a lot of the politics that happened um, turned people off when it came to what they would have liked to see from the team in 2022. Because it's like I keep saying, if you look at the past couple of years for the Dallas Cowboys and the losses that they have had, a lot of those losses occurred like the point spread was within one possession. So we're losing in the playoffs. A handful of plays could have made a difference. And so I think with that being the case, I think that's why we saw so much change during the offseason. I think there are people in the building who are like, we're not letting that happen again, and we're going to change things by any means necessary. And I think there are people who did not want to risk the possibility of politics coming into play or the possibility of Zeke just not fitting in style wise. And they just said, you know what? He got to go.
I still don't like it though.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I was a Zeke fan. I was definitely a big fan of him and Dak and their friendship and watching just the way players seem to respond to Zeke in the locker room and the kind of love they showed to each other as teammates. I loved it. I'm
That's
gonna
what
miss
I'm
that.
more worried about because he was like, you know, like the spirit of the team. You know, always happy and bringing everybody together and like funny and that shit.
Martin said West Coast offense, now you need versatility.
Correct.
Well, to that, Martin, I'm going to say you also need pass blocking. And that was one thing Zeke was good at. And I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see what our offensive line looks like. ZackMartin coming back is good news, but I'm just like,
My boy is
we've
back.
seen during the preseason some of these other players try to get it done when it comes to blocking. And yeah, I don't think we're just like doing so good in that department to where it's like somebody who did have a certain level of toughness, who did have a good impact, and that person off, especially when they seem to be willing to take $3 million with a $1 million signing bonus. You know what I'm saying?
Uh,
So, yeah, interesting move there. If Kellen wasn't our OC, Dak would have had his feet on the coffee table with a ring now. You know what? I can't even say you're wrong about that. I can't even say you're wrong, especially when, like I said, those losses could be accounted for with a handful of plays. Literally a handful of plays. It's very possible. So I can't say you're wrong. You might be right. I also can't say you're right. I don't have a crystal ball or anything. But I will say I'm very curious to see what the Chargers look like this season, especially with it being that like so many people made such a big deal about like, oh, now he's gonna have Justin Herbert, and then was it PFF? I don't remember who put Kellen Moore as the #2 ranked offensive coordinator in the entire NFL,
Bingo!
and I'm like,
In the entire.
he hasn't even done anything yet. All he did was leave the Cowboys, and now he's #2 in the
Who is
whole
hovering on
NFL.
those rankings? Who is who?
Nobody.
Mm-mm.
People who like to piss off Cowboys fans. Um,
No.
we face
Number
the
two.
Patriots in Week 4. Yes, we do. That'll be a fun game to watch.
It will.
I haven't really paid much attention to the Patriots and like what's going on with them, but I will now.
For what are you going to pay attention to the Patriots?
Well,
There's
now we
really
will.
nothing going on. I mean, I know we have Zeke,
One, because of course in advance of now, I do want to see how they use Zeke. I am probably gonna follow him for a little while and see how things go. So yeah, but I'm happy he found somewhere to play. Now, during the off season, I did write an article about all of Zeke's injuries and the fact that it wouldn't hurt him to take off a full season. Even though he's not taking off a full season, I think the fact that he did, take he wasn't active for things like OTAs and training camp.
they
Um,
never like really like let him fully heal.
well, I don't know if it was so much that they didn't let him or if he didn't want to, because there were some people who said that he was determined to get back on the field in certain situations. Um, but
I mean, if I would have done the same thing. He's in the middle of the game. Like, my back hurts a little bit, but it's fine. We only got like 30 minutes
well,
to live.
these were all knee injuries.
Walking,
um,
my knee's been fucked up too. I pulled both my quads. I'm like, no, it's fine. Let me just get
I
my
pulled
quad back
both
up.
my quads, but it's fine.
But it's fine.
I'll say this. I think a lot of people who are ready to get rid of him, I think it's been so long since we've seen him healthy. We don't really know what he was capable of. So now that he's had a little bit of time to rest and hopefully be evaluated, and whatnot, I'm really hoping that we'll see what's the word, a rejuvenated version of Ezekiel Elliott. Now in Week 4, I still hope.
Have like the like we know how he plays. We
Well,
know
I
what
mean,
he's
we might
capable
not
of.
know how he plays. We know what he did with the Cowboys when he was facing injury after injury after injury and dealing with
But even
Kellen Moore as
before
the
that,
OC.
like we know
But
how
now
what
he's
he
going
was
to be with the
capable of.
Patriots and a whole new offense. A whole new scheme. Different things are going to be demanded of him. He's going to be he will definitely. That's one thing I can promise you. He will definitely be used in different ways than what we've seen over the past couple seasons. That is not going to be the same. We might see things from Zeke that we haven't seen in several years, both because he'll be with a new team and also because he'll be more recovered. We'll see a healthier version of Ezekiel Elliott, which means he's going to be capable of different things. So He might surprise us, but we also have Jonathan Hankins and Mozzie. So I don't know if you were watching during that preseason game. People had a lot to say about Mozzie, but I mean, since we don't have film, I don't mind like kind of going out of order. But I'll say this about Mozzie, and if y'all really want to see film on this, let me know in the comments, and I'll get some clips together. Which means I'll be DMing Martin. I'll be like, Martin, please help me get some clips together. We need to get him like a birthday gift or
Yeah.
something.
When is your birthday, Martin? What is your
Yeah,
birthday?
when's your birthday, Martin? Let us know.
Let us know.
But yeah, so two
Yeah, Martin
things.
is going to be sick. Running the goal. You
Oh
bet. They
Lord.
better get him those like
Mm-mm.
heated benches.
I
That we
mean, EzekielElliott used to play in Ohio, so it might take him a little while to remember what that's
bro,
like, but
you
he'll
never
get back
know.
into it. I don't know. But this is what I'll say about Mozzie and why I think he's gonna be amazing. So a lot of times when they were able to throw Mozzie off his game, they were attacking Mozzie from the side. So like Mozzie would get his hands on somebody and he'd be doing good, and then all of a sudden you would see like somebody come in and basically blindside him. Like you could tell Mozzie didn't know that person was coming because he didn't even turn his head. He didn't have any resistance to that person. Like he's looking at the person in front of him, or in some cases people in front of him, and then somebody would come and get him like here and then push him. And he just didn't really have I won't say he didn't have counters for that. He wasn't using any available counters for that. To me, it looked like something new that he was dealing with. And then on top of the fact, there were so many situations where he was being double teamed, or in some cases triple teamed. I'm just like, well, you're not going to be able to do that when you also have Micah Parsons and D Law on the field. So it's like if they decide to use Mozzie this season, like, there's just not enough people to go around to put multiple people on Mozzie and on Micah and on Dila. Somebody is gonna be left either single covered or wide open. So I'm not worried about Mozzie. I think he's solid. Like, yeah, he does need to be a little bit faster in some cases, but I think he'll work on that. But I don't think he's as terrible as some people try to make it seem after this one preseason game. People love to overreact.
It's funny because like, my former but he was always like giving me a lot of shit and like, oh, Cowboys, blah. And he's been sending me fucking clips from Twitter from Dak's interceptions, and I'm like,
Oh
bro, but I'm
God!
like, bro,
During training
how
camp, his training
during
camp
training
interception.
camp, and I'm like, bro, like how much free time do you got? You just gotta admit it. You love the Cowboys. You got you have nothing else to do than watch Cowboys camp training camp videos. That's all you gotta do. But by any means, like send them to me. It's cool. I'm happy to see my boys at any time, interceptions or not. But like,
I'm gonna say this in response to this, and this is connected. It sounds like it's not, but it's connected, right? So last week, I was really down, right? And I said I was gonna quit doing the show. I was like, I'm gonna get rid of bitches love sports. I'm done. It's not good enough. It can't compare. Too many people are better than us. I'm done. I'm gonna just hang it up, whatever. And I was talking to someone, and this person said, "You don't sound like somebody who actually wants to quit. You sound like somebody who wants to be great so bad that it hurts that you're not that great yet." You know? And I was like, dang, you got a point. And I feel like that's what I see with a lot of these supposed Cowboys haters. I'm just like, you don't sound like somebody who hates the Cowboys. You sound like you love the Cowboys so much that you hate the fact that you came from a family, or that you started off being a fan for another team and you feel weird switching. Like, because there's no way. I'm just
listen,
like, even teams that I kind of like, I grew up watching the Saints. And I even have to remind myself to catch up with what's going on with the Saints. I don't have time to look at how Jameis Winston is fucking up during practice. Or even our supposed rivals, the Eagles, which the 49ers are actually our real rivals if you want to get down to it, but that's a whole nother conversation. You don't see me like, I might see it come up on my Twitter that Jalen Hurts messed up, but you don't see me like looking up clips of how
that's what
Jalen
I
Hurts may or may
mean.
not have fucked up.
That's what I Why?
because I have a team that I'm a fan of, and that's like who I invest my time in, you know?
That's exactly it. I was
And so
just
I'm
like,
just like,
he sent me like on 3 different occasions.
every time he does that, you should just be like, what's up with the Raiders? Who is y'all's quarterback anyway?
But that's what I've been saying, like, bro, like at least we made it to playoffs. Did you make it to playoffs?
Right.
Did you?
I usually be like, how's Derek Carr doing? Oh, he's with the Saints. Who's your team again?
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Come on now. Come on
Mm-hmm.
now. Like, how are you gonna talk about Dak and nobody even knows who your quarterback is?
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat tell me who the Raiders quarterback is. I don't even know. Um,
Yeah. I told him he's just jealous of the
and then it's
progress
just
that we
like
get.
counting
You know.
interceptions during preseason is ridiculous
Bro.
for a few reasons.
He said send him prayers. And I just said like we'll see who has to pray for who when it actually counts, dog. We'll see. We'll
But it's
see.
like, so they did go with Jimmy G. I think I had heard for a while that that might not happen. I don't know. I don't know. But that's how little I'm keeping up with other people's teams. I don't care. I won't care until it's time for us to play them. If it's ever time for us to play them. Yeah, a couple of people have confirmed it is Jimmy G. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you guys. Yes.
Um, but yeah, I'm just like training camp. I'm like, first of all, it's the offense's first time going against anything that even resembles opposition, right? Because it's like they have these meetings where they talk about things, and then they have these other off-season activities where they practice what they're supposed to do as part of the play, and then they have the OTAs, but then there's no contact, and then they get to training camp and there's still no contact, and then when they finally put on pads, it's still not 100%. And so I'm just like, yeah, and one of the examples I use in one of the shows that you weren't on, I use the example of like if you're like at a derby practice and you learn a play, right? And then it's like, all right, we're gonna put Freight Train on the track to stop y'all from executing the play. She's not gonna go 100%, but she gonna try to knock y'all down. It's like it's gonna fuck you up a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah.
not going to perform as smoothly as you would if you
No.
didn't have any defenders on the track.
Right.
And that's essentially what's happening with the Cowboys and Micah Parsons. It's like you got the offense, like, yeah, we know what we're doing, da da da, and then Micah comes out there and he's not going 100%, but he is doing enough to be disruptive, and so mistakes happen. But that's what training camp is for. It's to
Oh
see
my
like
god.
what throws a wrench in this play, what causes the offense
The
to
whole
be to be off of their timing a little bit, like,
sense.
right. I'm
I
just
don't know
like,
what you're
what if
training for, but what you do to be better.
thank you. Thank you. So I don't know. People watching camp, I think some people, they just want to be in the conversation so bad. They want to feel like they know football so
They
bad that they
jealous.
just latch on to any headline. And right now, the interceptions are still a hot topic for some reason.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, if you want to feel like you know football, like there's other stuff to talk about. But it's like that's why they call it low hanging fruit, because it's so easy.
It's
You
so
don't
easy.
even have to put in
Yes.
effort
You're right.
to latch onto these talking points. It's like it's right there.
It's
So
right
it's like
there.
anybody who wants to feel like I know sports, I'm a sports guy, can just like walk outside and grab that low hanging fruit and text you videos of Dak's interceptions and just be like, see, I know sports.
You know,
I know your quarterback made a mistake in
yeah.
training camp.
Right. But like I legit went and tried to find film of the Raiders training camp and I couldn't.
Nobody cares enough. I am so sorry for
Hey, Bobby, exactly.
I'm
How you
sorry for
feel
eating that
about
piece of
it?
ice. If y'all heard that crunch, the
Nobody
microphone
cares
that we're
about
using
it.
is on my ear, so my bad, guys. Anyway, so we talked about Zeke. We need to talk about Zach. One Zach Martin. Um, that's like cousin to shoo shoo shoo.
You
Um,
game forever.
forever. Zach Martin. Martin signed a deal that will guarantee him $36 million over the next 2 seasons, sources told Adam Schefter, up from the $27.5 million he was set to earn in 2023 and 2024. Both years are fully guaranteed. That is so major. The rework deal takes Martin from the eighth highest paid guard to the third behind at Atlanta's Chris Lindstrom and Indianapolis's Quentin Nelson, who reset the market at 20.5 and 20 million respectively. Martin was fined 50,000 per day for his absence, which cannot be rescinded or waived by the team. But he was willing to sit out for what Schefter called his belief that he was, quote, woefully underpaid relative to the market. This is a quote apparently from ZackMartin, who said, "I just think I've been here a long time. I've accomplished some great things, but just felt like where I was in the market, that it's something that had been deserved and felt strongly about. Obviously, it took a little time, but I'm super grateful to the Joneses. Once we started talking and having that connection, we were able to figure something out that worked for both of us." And so let me say a couple of things about this. One, I'm never going to be mad at a player for getting their money, because most players, they don't go into this with such bad intentions that they would completely fuck up a salary cap. So when people make speculations like that, I'm like, I'm not even going to get involved in those conversations, because I'm going to leave that discussion to the team, the player, and agents and other representatives who actually are privy to that information. Because we've seen so many situations, so many, not even just with this team, where people make, i.e. Jalen Hurts, i.e. Patrick Mahomes. So it's like, when it comes to like how it's gonna affect the salary cap, like, you got to see how that plays out in the deal. So I'm not about to, like, during negotiations start talking shit about what a player may or may not do to the salary cap, knowing I have absolutely no point of reference to even speak on that, you know? And then on top of that, what these players make is nothing compared to what these owners make. And then my third point is, sometimes players have to do this not only for themselves, but also for other players. Because if you are one of the best offensive linemen in the entire league, but yet you're like the eighth highest paid, what that does is that gives some other team leverage to use against another offensive lineman, and be like, well, Zach Martin is this and that, and he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and even he is only getting da 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 da. So it's not even just about him. So that's why I'm just like, when players are like, okay, here's where my skills are, here's where I'm ranked, here's what I mean to this team, here's how significant I am in the grand scheme of things, and I feel like I should be paid accordingly. I look at it as, at the end of the day, it's good for them, it's good for other players. So, props to him for standing his ground and losing $50,000 a day to gain what, something in the neighborhood of like 8 million a year.
Worth it.
Right. Like, if somebody told me, like, hey, if you invest $50,000 a day today for like a couple weeks, you'll get $8 million a year. I don't have it, but I would find it. I would find it. I'd be like, that's pain. I know y'all know some people.
Sorry, but I'll find a
Joking. I'll find a place.
I'll find a place.
They could have got it done way before training camp. Zach wanted to chill a couple. I'm not mad at that either. Like you said, he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
And I do think, like, yeah, some of the other guys getting some extra reps in, not the worst thing. So, shout out to both Zach and Zeke for their new deals. Shout out to Zeke for his new opportunity. It will be interesting to see. But when Zeke posted that picture with him in the haircut, I almost retweeted it and tagged you. But for some reason, Twitter don't be letting me find your username that easily. Like, it makes it really hard. I don't know what the deal is with that. But I was about to tag you and be like, look at your boy with the haircut. But like, something happened and I never got the tweet off. And then I found out about the deal and I was like, oh, that explains that. Because I just thought he looked good with the haircut. I was just like, okay, he's looking polished, cleaned up. Yeah.
I like the Wild Pro though. I like the Wild Pro.
I don't know. I like clean cut Zeke a little better, but to each their own. To each their own.
I like the Wild Pro more. it suits him better.
I'll take your word for it. Y'all are a lot of like, personality wise. So noted. What else do we have to say about the Cowboys? Let's see. We talked a little bit about Mazi. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Deuce. This kid. Let me know when you need that break, and I will. Let's go now. Okay. Hold on. No, go ahead. Do. I still got to do the thing.
I guess I gotta do that.
All right, we're gonna play this video while Elena takes a quick break, and then we'll be back.
If people don't say me, they're crazy. SimiFehoko.
Me and Simi will beat anybody.
Oh, Simi. For sure, A1.
My man.
Hey, CD! CD! I'm coming for y'all! For sure.
My man.
Michael, easy. Go, man! Let's go!
Simi. That man's 2-0 on today. We just warmed up, though. What you got to say, bro?
I'm the best football player on the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, you're drunk.
I don't play pickleball. I ain't never played. Jalen Brooks, that's my dog. Who the fuck is that guy?
Top 3 players. Simi, Dak, and Wanye.
Definitely. Definitely. You play pickleball too? Come here. Trade too. My bad.
Dak Prescott. Gracias. De nada. Bonito.
Pickleball partner. Apparently, probably like Simi or Dak or them.
What the fuck?
I'm taking Mike. Nah. Big foe.
Gracias.
All right, perfect timing. So that video that y'all just watched was it was the work of Dallas Cowboys made a video about who's the best pickleball player, which a lot of people on the team seem to know accurately that SimiFehoko is one of the best players on the team. And then our friend MartinTalkCowboys went in and added some awesome edits that made that video even more entertaining, hilarious. So thank you for that, Martin. Thank you for blessing the Twitter streets with that offering.
Thank you.
If we had one of those sound drop boards, like what Vach and Sky have, Dak Prescott saying gracias would definitely be on it. Did you see the interview that came from?
I did. De nada, bonito. What did he say?
He said gracias de nada, bonito, tacos and quesadillas.
Tacos and quesadillas.
And what I said, I was like, okay, technically 2 words. If you know bonito, you know bonita. So that's 5 words. Technically, had he explained it right, he would not have had to add tacos and quesadillas.
That's what he meant.
But Dak Prescott awkwardly being like gracias lives in my head rent free. Rent free.
And then like his basic facial expression is like
He's like, I'm about to alienate our whole Mexican fan base. Oh shit. One of our lights went out. I'm sorry, Spain, your light went out.
That's fine. I live in the dark anyway.
We got new lights and they don't have a very long battery life and they weren't fully charged. So here we are. Like I said, we're trying to figure stuff out. Love you guys so much for just hanging with us through all the transitions. Y'all get to watch our glow up, which is gonna happen. So I'm excited.
Thank you for bearing with us.
But yeah. Oh, before we keep going, I want to give you your gift. So I went to training camp and my co-host did not, but I still made sure to bring you something back. And while you're opening your gift, I'm gonna say chat. If you're in the chat, I also bought my first official NFL jersey. So like I have this, right? But this is a t-shirt with a number on it, and I have the same thing for CD. But I also bought my first official NFL jersey. So if you're in the chat, go ahead and guess who it is. It's not that hard, but you can guess whose jersey I purchased. No, I didn't get you a jersey. I'm sorry.
No, I said, yes, bitch. I need Cowboys memorabilia. I need Cowboys gear.
So I figured you would like that. Something you can wear in the fall. You can wear like more than one day per week. That you don't have to dry clean like these jerseys apparently.
I'm Wearing my Cowboys on my sleeve, bitches.
Okay, so let's see.
By the way, my birthday is next month, you guys. So I need a jersey because mine has 21 on it.
Yes, S Pain needs a new jersey. If anybody wants to donate to the S Pain's New Jersey Fund, because these jerseys are not cheap. I'm like, holy fuck. But yeah, so S Pain gets CD. Mike Harris thinks do it. Make them mad. Man, they gonna hate you anyway. You might as well be the most obnoxious Cowboys fan you can be. Mike Harris thinks it's Dak or Parsons, and Martin Talk Cowboys guess 4. So yes, it says Dallas on the hood. I love this. I love this hoodie. I should have got one for me too, so we could match someday, but I didn't because I put most of my money on this.
Oh shit!
Martin, you are correct. Martin, you are correct.
I guess wrong.
My
I went full CD.
And I know why you did. CD has been Cowboys Bay for so long,
Correct.
but at the end of the day, when I really, based on what we know about them, if I were to meet either of them in person, who do you think I would vibe better with? Just like as far as like having a good conversation and something to talk about.
I mean, come on. That. Clearly.
Very clearly. Not that I don't love CD. CD is amazing. So CD is like,
You could relate with Dak on a different level.
I think so too. CD is like one of those people that's like, you ever been to like a museum and you see artwork that you think is beautiful, but if the museum owner were to be like, oh, you like that? You could take it home. You might be like, I don't have anywhere to put that shit. Like it looks really nice. It's fucking gorgeous, but like no.
I'm so excited with this.
I'm so excited that you're excited.
I'm so excited. Like,
I was really looking around. I was just like, which one of these things would S Pain actually like?
I love it. I love the cut off. I love everything. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
I
off.
think it's supposed to be crop-ish. It's not like really like, but there's like room. If you want to like cut more, like you could, I guess.
I mean, I
but
could. I have the machines to fix it.
For real, my co-host is a seamstress. Yeah. But like I feel like if we were to like interview Dak, for example, like if Dak would be like, yeah, I'll make an appearance on Bitches Love Sports, which he should, we would have a great conversation about
Say
like
5 words in the bitches language.
Well, we have a great conversation about leadership and hopefully anime. I still have my fingers crossed that he's an anime fan. I don't know that he is. He might not be.
Maybe he likes soccer too.
Maybe. I mean, he's a pickleball fan, so I don't know.
You know, besides, he plays pickleball for funsies, but like maybe he is,
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I think we could have a great conversation with Dak Prescott, but I don't know how we could ever make that happen. But anyway.
If y'all know how to make that happen, we're always, we're listening. Let us know.
Definitely listening.
We'll follow the path.
Oh no, maybe Martin can work his magic. He has a way of getting players' attention.
Martin, get that detective hat on, man. Get that detective hat on.
Martin's gonna be like, okay, y'all are doing too much. I don't need nobody to watch this and start tweeting at Martin. Like, Martin, I heard you know Dak. He's gonna be like, I'm never helping y'all nothing again.
Say less.
Have y'all seen my DMs? Okay, so we do want to talk about Deuce Vaughn before we get out of here. Dak is adorable. Oh my goodness.
I love it.
He does seem to have kind of a dorky side, but he also seems to have very much a fierce side.
That's fair.
I just feel like you can't overcome everything that he's overcome and not have a side of you that's just like badass. Football players do not talk about somebody the way that they talk about Dak Prescott if that person is soft as fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Right, you can't.
So I'm just like, I think Dak is smart enough to present himself to the public in a certain way, but there's no way that he's just some soft, timid, shy dude who doesn't have self-esteem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's showing something to these players that we don't get to see, that we don't need to see. It's none of our business really, but he's showing something to them that makes them respect him and value his leadership and follow his leadership. So for me, that's all I need to see. All right. So I really didn't have time to pull a bunch of clips of Deuce from the All 22, but I do have these two videos that were shared from Twitter that are hilarious. Before we pull up these videos and talk about him, here's what I'm gonna say about Deuce Vaughn. When people first started talking about his size and questioning whether or not he would be, effective on the NFL level, I thought of a couple of things. So one thing that I thought about was the fact that like he's been playing on the college level and he's been dominant enough to get attention, right? So I know that there are differences between college and the NFL, but it's not like people could point out a lot of areas where his size was ever an issue. And there are big dudes, excuse me, that you have to face on the college level, right? Like even on the college level, he's still a smaller person. And then the other thing I thought about,
shorter than me.
exactly. Another thing I thought about was in Derby, while size can
Going
and
against small people. I hate it.
and describe why you hate going against small
Because
people.
you don't know. You miss them. You cannot even see them sometimes. They're really quick. They need really, really little room to get by. Like they can juke you. They're super agile. They're super fast.
And you know what I hate about going against small people in Derby?
What?
Those high block calls.
That's it.
Because they get this low to the ground,
That's it.
and if you go and block them the way that you block someone bigger than them, your stance might be the same. But
Yes.
because they get so low, next thing you know, you get a high block call,
Yeah.
which in Derby is basically anytime that you hit someone above the shoulders, that's a penalty.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, fuck, they're 2 feet off the ground,
Bruh.
you know?
How are you even supposed to not? Like,
And so, honestly, one of my favorite things about watching Deuce Vaughn has been watching people miss him because he needs so little space, like you said, and he is so fast. And also watching people have to adjust on the fly to him, to his height, and it makes them miss a little bit. So, this first clip I'm about to show y'all is a perfect example of that. Let me go ahead and well, no, because if I maximize it before we share, it's going to take up too much of the screen.
yeah, that's another one. I saw one from the preseason.
Yeah, this first one is in regular time, and the second one is like the slow motion one from preseason. All right, so here we go. Sound off, so as I like scrub left to right, it doesn't. Hold on, let me see if I pause it and then I do this. Ah, there we go.
Nice, mira, tú que lista.
So what I want y'all to do is I want y'all to see, we can rig this. We can figure this shit out. But like if you watch 28, I want you to watch what his arm does as he approaches Deuce. And I want you to watch what Deuce does in the split second where he changes his arm, right? So like first of all, Deuce is literally hidden. Like,
I
show me
know
where
I
Deuce
cannot-
is.
I cannot
Because
see.
I don't fucking know, right? So he's behind a few people. There's a few people in that pile,
Yeah.
and so then he kind of emerges right there, boom, right? So 28 was smart, gave himself a little room to be like, okay, I don't know where he's coming from, but I just want to have room to move when I see him. So not a bad move on his part. He looks small as fuck. He's not that small. He's taller than me, but in comparison to the other dudes on the field, you're right, not by much. He looks so small.
He's like levitating.
I wasn't
right
planning
there.
on laughing at this. This is your fault. Anyway, so he finally emerges literally beneath shoulder height of everybody who's on the field. So he comes running out. Like, not only is he short, but he also has a stride that allows him to get even lower to the ground.
Bro, like his knees almost on the fucking ground.
That's what I'm saying about his stride. That he uses his height and how to make himself even smaller.
Yeah.
you know. So he's running right towards 28, jukes to the left, and then springs himself. Like, look at this shit. So look at where his left foot is. Takes a huge ass stride to the left, and then in that one stride propels himself to the other shoulder of 28. One step. Dude is quick as fuck, right? 28 sees it, goes in the right direction, but look at where his hand is. He goes in to grab Deuce, but his hand is aiming for what would be Deuce's head.
Yeah.
And if he were to make contact with Deuce right now, he would either get a face mask or some kind of unnecessary roughness because it's too high, right? So then he lowers it, right? But in that second that it took him to lower it, Deuce takes that left leg, swings it through across the right leg, and is outside the grasp of this player who, like, he touched him, so in practice the play is over. But if this were a real time situation, I have no doubt that Deuce would have been able to escape that and just keep going. And so it's just like looking at it again, just
what if it was like a tiny shoo. Let's do a tiny shoo for this.
So yeah, hand above the shoulder as he drops it, and just point of contact gone. Just ridiculous. And look at the size of this man's thighs and calves.
I know.
Jesus.
It's bigger than he's on his.
Like, how are you that size? Like, I want to know. Did I ever tell you the story about when LeVar Burton was hitting on me and he was like, "Tell me about your leg day"? I feel like if I ever see Deuce Vaughn, that's gonna be me. I'm gonna mean it. I'm gonna be like, "Deuce Vaughn, tell me about your leg day." Like, that'll be the whole interview. Like, what are you eating? What recovery modalities do you use?
I don't know. I think he's gonna bring a different dynamic to the team that
Dude.
It's gonna be awesome.
So this is the other one. It's already in slow motion, but we're gonna go.
Isn't this the one that they hit each other?
Yeah. So this clip was shared by Ryan Clark, friend of the show. Shout out to Ryan Clark, who himself said that he is our homie. So shout out to the homie. Shout out to the homie Ryan Clark. So when this particular clip starts, we see Deuce Vaughn escaping two Jaguars defenders. And they've got men on them, so maybe their trajectory was thrown off. But they basically run into each other. Cool. But then we see these three defenders converging on Deuce. Literally. Oh no. What's he gonna do? He's gonna do the same thing but in the opposite direction. And then they're like, "Oh no!" And they all fucking miss.
Literally all 5 of them.
And then we've got a fourth one coming in to clean it up. But look where he grabs him though. Above the shoulders. Which I just feel like once we get to regular season and they start having
some
those,
of that shit has better be called.
Yeah, when they start having those coaches meetings where the coaches get to talk to the refs before the game, I think that's the thing that happens in the NFL. I know what happens in Derby. In Derby, I'll say this. In Derby, there's always a meeting between the head ref and coaches and captains. So I'm assuming the NFL does something similar. But if Deuce were my player and I went to that pregame meeting, I would be like, "Hey, people have a tendency to high block my player. How are you going to call that?" So if I were Mike McCarthy, I'd be like, "How are you going to call that?" And I would show them this picture. And I'd be like, "Yes, he tried to literally take my running back's head off. So is this something that y'all are going to call? Because his arms are clearly above this man's shoulder and he takes him down by his neck. So is that something you are going to call?" would be my question if I were Mike McCarthy and or Brian Schottenheimer. So yeah, like tackling him is an issue, especially once he gets into space. He's just so good at juking. The fact that he can propel himself so far. We're talking about several feet, like aiming from one shoulder to going to the other shoulder, literally in one step. Dude is ridiculous.
It's insane. Yes. I think we're in for a treat this season with.
Honestly, that's what I'm most excited about right now. There were some other interesting things that happened. Um, that happened with the offense. So think I think one of the other interesting things, and I'm gonna keep this short because like we're coming up on an hour and a half, so we got to get out of here soon. But I'll speak on Simi a little bit, mainly because I well I was about to say I think, but I know for a fact that Simi's victories don't get as much attention as his shortcomings. Like I made a list of tweets about SimiFehoko, about the ones where he dropped passes versus the ones where he got like a first down or a touchdown in practice. And literally, dude could make an awesome catch, get a touchdown, and no comments. Just might get some likes, might get some retweets, but no comments on it. Dude drops a pass, comments are full of people like, oh, he's
Of
got
course.
butterfingers and
Of course.
cut him and yada yada yada.
He's a Cowboys player.
But this is coming from fans, which I'm just like, if you're a fan, why are you rooting against a player,
I'm not
especially a
gonna
player
care
who's
what
not
player
doing
does.
as bad? Facts. Not doing as bad as people like to make it seem. Like, um, I just think it's so interesting when people are like, "Oh yeah, he's got a butterfingers, he's got a case of the drops," and I'm just like, he's actually making a lot more catches than he's dropping. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like yes, he's dropped some passes, but I'm just like, if and I said this, I wrote an article about Simi Fehoko and why I think he should have a roster spot. So if you read it, you've heard this argument already. But I'm just like, if you go to any other team in the league and be like, we're Gilmore and see what happens, Gilmore's probably going to own them. And we would expect that shit because it's Stephon Gilmore. If we say we're going to put your fifth best receiver against Trayvon Diggs and be like, oh my God, Trayvon intercepted a pass intended for this team's fifth best wide receiver. It's like, no, we expect that shit because they're two of the best, you know? And so it's stuff like that kind of got to me. Just that people were not taking into account the context of the situation. People didn't take into account during his injury. I literally met a fan who did not believe he was injured last year. She said they put him on IR because he was not useful. And I'm just like,
Wow.
no, he literally hurt his shoulder and could not raise his arm any higher than this.
I
If
feel
you
bad
can't
for
see, I'm
you,
not in the
bro.
camera. Could not raise his arm any higher than this. It could not go above parallel. And so since he's a receiver and he can't do this, they put him on IR. Like it makes sense. Um, and so it's just like things like that frustrated me. So when the game comes around, hey Vach, how's it going? Vach says hey, SK.
Hey, what's up, Boch? What's up, homie?
So when the game came around and we saw, Jalen Brooks kind of struggle a little bit, but then Simi was 4 for 4. I was just like, so we're not going to talk about this? Like, this isn't going to be a point of discussion. All of a sudden, we're not interested in discussing Simi of Hoko. And what history has shown us is, of course not. Um, um, so yeah, when it comes to Simi, one part of me wants to believe that they want to use his physicality a little bit more than how it's been used. But of course, they're not going to show their entire hand in the offseason. But I also think that he's done a lot of good things that just get downplayed. And so when it comes to the court of public opinion, he's made out to look a lot worse than he actually is. I think for a fifth or sixth receiver on the depth chart, I think he's solid. He's very solid. I think when it like if you look across the league, if people were to actually do this, but I think when you look across the league and you look at what most teams expect or what they get from their fifth or sixth best receiver, I would say Simi's right on par. Especially considering the fact that a lot of those clips that people are talking about came out during a time when he was dealing with a quad contusion. So if you're not familiar, your quad muscle controls knee extension. So things like running and jumping and changing direction, things that are essential to the job of a wide receiver, they were impaired and impacted because he took a knee to the thigh. So once again, because this is something else that people were saying, like, oh, he's so prone to injury, like he's so fragile. Like, no, he took LVE's knee to his thigh and it caused a quad contusion. And so basically doing things like running and jumping and changing direction they hurt really bad if it was even possible to execute them in the same way. Considering how quickly he came back, I'm thinking it was mild. So it probably hurt really bad. But, if you're not an athlete, you might not understand how even pain can stay. So yeah, I was
It
proud of him.
sucks.
I was proud of him for coming back as soon as he did. I actually saw him that day. I walked right past him and I was like, "Hey, Simi, how you feeling?" Because it had only been 2 days and you're supposed to need a minimum of 5 days to come back from a quad contusion. Walked past him. I was like, "Simi, how you feeling?" He was like, "I'm going to power through it." Gave him a fist bump and I kept walking because if you are headed to VIP at training camp and you stop on the ramp and try to talk to players, security will come and get you. So that is all I had time to say.
Looking for experience,
Um,
I think.
they have signs on the thing, and there's
Oh.
security guards standing there. So the signs will say like, "Don't stop, keep walking." And so like I didn't really stop. So I paid attention to the sign. It didn't stop. I slowed down, and I was just like,
Which is
"Simi,
not the same.
it's not." I did not stop. I was like, "Simi, how are you feeling?" And when I said that, I saw a security guard look at me. So I got my fist bump and I kept it moving. One interesting thing I did see on Twitter today was somebody was like, they were like, SimiFehoko is overpowered as a tight end in Madden. And I thought that was interesting because one of the things that I did say in my article, I was just like, at 6'4", like Simi is really a couple of bulking cycles away from being mistaken for a Cowboys tight end. And so I just thought it was interesting that somebody said that. And so I replied to their tweet to get a little bit more information just out of curiosity, and they haven't replied yet, or they hadn't replied as of the beginning of the start of this show. Um, but yeah, I want to see more from some things during these preseason games to show the ways that he can make things easier for his quarterback, because that is something that we've seen during training camp. We've seen on some of these short and intermediate routes just how physical he is and his willingness to just like overpower a defender. People talk about the fact that he doesn't get separation all the time. And he doesn't get huge amounts of separation, but what I have seen him do over and over again is use physicality and hand fighting to be like, "Oh, you want to get in between me and the ball? I'm going to move you out the way. I'm going to put myself in position to make this pass." And we've seen that happen a couple of times. We've seen situations where Dak was literally scrambling and, ended the scramble, looked up, and Simi had, positioned himself to get a first down. We've seen that. And I guess people aren't paying as much attention to those clips. So maybe if it happens during a preseason game, people will see it a little bit more. But yeah, there's a lot of ways that he's very useful, very talented, very skilled, and in ways that other receivers aren't for the Cowboys. He's literally the biggest receiver in the room. So, Simi, hold on, what is he saying? No, what's up? But that's not the one I intended to click on. Simi had 25 of his 27 yards from Yak. Awesome. Yeah, so that's the long and short of most of the arguments. If you read the article, like I mentioned a bunch of other stuff that I'm not recalling right now, but overall, the long and short of it is I do think people are being a little bit too hard. Part of it might come from what we were talking about earlier, that tendency to just go for the low-hanging fruit. It's so easy to just scroll through comments and adopt the same mentality as everybody else. And I think a lot of people even had their minds made up from the very beginning. I think had so what happened at the beginning of the training camp is Dak had just put out that, or well, he didn't put out an interview. There was that quote from Dak about not having tipped interceptions this year. And then the first thing that we see is a tipped interception, and it happened to be Simi. I think had it been Jalen Brooks in that situation, a similar thing might be happening with Jalen Brooks. I think a lot of people saw that, and it's a lot easier to write someone off because somebody was like, "Oh, he's had 3 years to get it right," and I'm like, "No, this is his third year. He was drafted in 2021." And once again, in terms of fifth or sixth receivers on the depth chart, them coming to life, so to speak, in their third year. Not to mention, this is something that I didn't talk about in the article because I didn't want to derail the whole point of the article. SimiFehoko in high school did not play receiver. He played free safety. And he wasn't even on varsity doing that. Then, this part we have talked about on the show before, he goes to a 7-on-7 event. There's a recruiter there. the team he ended up on happened to need a receiver, and he was like, I can catch a ball in the air. I'll be a receiver. He had never played receiver before that event. Goes to the event, plays receiver. This recruiter sees him and's like, I think you should be a receiver, and starts, like,
Sending him like
yeah,
he's
he
playing some
started
games
getting
like
D1
before.
offers as a receiver, as opposed to as a free. One event, he started getting D1 offers for a position that he'd never played before, and eventually started playing, but never played on the varsity level before he got to college. He gets to college, still doesn't get a lot of snaps or experience as a receiver. And one thing we talked about on this show before is the fact that when you're lower on the depth chart, it's like, yeah, you might get opportunities during practice, but it's like in-game reps matter too. Those are things that help build chemistry with the quarterback. They help build your comfort and confidence in like realistic situations. So it's like fewer opportunities to get better at what you do. So in college he had a lot fewer of those, entered the draft in his junior year, and then ended up on America's team. So when I said in the article he doesn't have nearly as much experience as a receiver as a lot of the people in the room, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have as much experience as anybody else in the room. And if you read his scouting reports from when he was entering the draft, a lot of those scouting reports said things like his best football is ahead of him. They complimented his blocking skills. They complimented him for the use of his size. They complimented him for his speed given his size. But when it came to his actual receiving abilities, a lot of those scouting reports said things like he's a very raw route runner. He still needs to work on catching the ball. So running routes and catching the ball, like if you read that, you kind of know like, okay, as a receiver, this guy needs some work. But the trajectory that he was on was enough for a lot of those scouting reports to say like, yes, he is worthy of being drafted. He has a lot of potential. None of them said that he was ready. Almost all of them said that like, yeah, he's going to be a good special team, throw out some blocks, like, he's a good dude for that. So like, I'm just like, yeah, these are things that you would expect from someone that low on the depth chart. Um, and so I'm not saying that, these should be excuses, but I'm just saying like when you consider that and you compare him to other people in the room, I just feel like he's not as far off. And if you consider where he came from, you can see how his trajectory is only going to take him upward. Because I'm just like, if he's performing as well as he is, excuse me, because even though we talked about him having trouble against Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore, he didn't lose those battles 100% of the time. So when you take all of that into account, you see someone who's a solid receiver, a solid addition to the team, who is on an upward trajectory and has room to grow. And I'd like to see him do that growth with the Cowboys. And then to tack on to that, before we sign out of here, I'm going to just say this. So I wrote that article and I decided not to read the comments. Here's the thing about my articles, guys. If you read an article from me and the headline is in the form of a question, that means I might be open to discussion. So, for example, months ago, I wrote an article that said, who's under more pressure for the 2023 season, Jalen Brooks or SimiFehoko? That headline is in the form of a question. So if you want to come to Twitter and ask me about it, I might be open to discussing it with you. The article I wrote about Simi recently said, SimiFehoko deserves a spot on the Dallas Cowboys roster. That was not a question. That was a statement. So that means if you disagree, I don't give a fuck. That means said, and I don't have anything else to say. You are not going to change my mind. You are not going to make me not be a fan of SimiFehoko. I don't even give a fuck about changing your mind. So I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to spend hours getting notifications about how you think SimiFehoko is the 10th best receiver on the Cowboys. I don't care. And I don't agree. And I think your judgment is off. I'll say that. So just know, if my headline is not in the form of a question and I'm not responding in the comment section of said article, don't at me. Don't at me because I don't give a fuck. Okay? Okay.
Great. I just think,
Maybe that should be the new pinned tweet.
right.
So like before you at me, disclaimer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just don't think if he was a cowboy, he was with the Cowboys, he would get nearly as much hate or love? Question mark.
Considering considering our conversation earlier about love and hate.
Yeah, like I don't think there's gonna be another fan base of another team that's gonna talk about the fifth wide receiver of their team the way that people talk about SimiFehoko because he is with the Cowboys.
I mean, they don't even talk about other people on this team the way they do.
What are you gonna do?
Cavante Turpin had a couple of rough moments in the game. Must have punt. And then there was Rico Dowdle's run where Turpin basically got run over and into Dowdle, and Dowdle ended up fumbling the ball, which that wouldn't have happened if he were the size of SimiFehoko. I'm just saying. But people on Twitter were like, "Oh, Turpin's just rusty," and I'm like, Simi had a whole ass injury that kept him out last season. And he had an injury during training camp, but he doesn't get, oh, he was just rusty. Like the fuck.
I don't know. I would love to know how this narrative starts. Like, why do you think that Turpin is rusty where you think that Simi is not good enough? I would love to know the root of this.
I think it's a combination of ignorance and feeding into the highlights because Turpin was like really hyped up, coming into last season. He got a lot of praise from people like CeeDee Lamb. And then he had some great moments in the preseason, running balls all the way back, for a touchdown. And so, people are waiting to see that again. They want to see it again. They really want to get that feeling again about Turpin. They're looking forward to it. They've never had that connection with Simi to where he had a great play that made them excited. There are people who didn't even realize that Simi, on offense and on special teams. And there are people who said he did not play last season.
That's how much of a Cowboys fan you are?
Yeah, and it's like they didn't even take the time to look into it. They're just like, oh, he didn't do anything, yada, yada, yada. And it's like he didn't get a lot of targets, when he was on offense, but he had a lot of snaps on special teams. And so it's just like, I think people just, they have a lot of misconceptions about Simi. He hasn't done anything that makes them excited. And instead of just looking at it as just like, okay, here's what he brings to the table for where he is on the depth chart. Here's why he did get snaps on offense and why he did get the targets he got. Instead of them saying that and accepting that, they're just like, I think a lot of people are like, we want somebody to be excited about, because it's just like, look at how excited they were about Brooks just from practice. But those same people are not saying anything about the preseason game. But I think it's because they haven't been fed anything to say. Whereas during the offseason, that discussion about the anticipated wide receiver 4 battle, people were fed a lot of things to say. And I think that's how a lot of people get their takes. I think a lot of it has to be spoon fed, like baby birds. It's like, yeah, we talk a lot of shit about mainstream media and the Skip Baylesses and the Emmanuel Achos and the Shadys of the world, right? But there are a lot of fans who operate the same way. They get on Twitter, they scroll Twitter, and whatever has the most engagement is what they take in. And so I think there are a lot of people who are just fed this narrative of like, oh, SimiFehoko is always hurt. SimiFehoko doesn't contribute anything. And they didn't
work.
Even on TikTok, like, when he was really active, I would see fans of his go in the comments and be like, you're the GOAT. And he'd be like, nah, man, that's CD. Like, he's always acknowledged that he's lower on the depth chart and never, like, if you look at the TikToks that where he's like been educating people on his experience in the NFL, and he's talked about things like people asking questions like, okay, how much do y'all get paid for equipment or for jerseys? And he's been like, well, people like me, I made a whole $11 off my appearance in Madden, and he's been honest about that. Like, I made $11, but, players like so-and-so and such, they probably got da-da-da. So he's been very honest about where he stands. He's very aware. Like, he's not some cocky dude who's like, yeah, I'm coming for the number 1 spot. That's not who he is. I think he just really loves football. He loves playing for the Cowboys. And he's trying really hard to, be good in a position other people essentially told him he was good at. Because, like, if you think about it, that's essentially what happened. Somewhere in the neighborhood of, I forget how old he is exactly, but let's say 6, 7 years ago, when people like CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Tolbert and other good receivers around the league had already spent years playing their position from the time that they were kids, had varsity experience, he was just finding out that he was even capable of playing. And then even in that situation, that was 7-on-7. That was a 7-on-7 situation where this recruiter was like, "This dude can jump real high and snatch balls out the air. I'm gonna pitch him to Clemson. I'm gonna pitch him to Stanford." He's been going with it and trying to figure it out, which is essentially what's been said in these scouting reports. That he is like, if you were to take what these scouting reports said in a nutshell, in 2021, they basically said, "Yo, this dude is athletic. He's fierce. He's not afraid of contact, but he's still learning how to be a receiver." And he's had less opportunities to get good at that than other receivers, essentially. But yeah, I just really hate to see people beating up on a good dude. Simi's like so nice and so cool. Like he doesn't cuss, but like he's always been nice to us. Where there are people who like won't associate themselves with the show, won't comment on our stuff, won't retweet our stuff because it's called Bitches Love Sports. But he'll still do it because we show him love and he shows love back. And I'm just like,
BLS.
yeah, and if
You don't have to say it.
if he were to ever talk about the show, I'm certain that's what he would say. But yeah,
He was cool. He's a cool dude.
super
come
cool
to
dude.
the show. We all know you want to. Martin, put your detective hat on. It's Simi on the show.
We're working on it. But yeah, so if you have any earnest questions about SimiFehoko, feel free to hit us up where we are tagged here on the screen, BTCHESLUVSPORTS on Twitter. That's where we're most active. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Facebook. They're both pretty much shadow banned because, if you use the word bitch, oh my God. I've seen some horrible shit on word bitch is what gets you shadow banned as opposed to some of the horrible shit I've seen on social media. But hey, that's where we are.
Whatever. We're gonna make it through anyway. So
yeah, there was I don't know if y'all have ever seen this, but there was like this old South Park movie that came out a long time ago. Classic shit. It was called, what the fuck was it called? Anyway, it was like the first South Park movie that came out. But basically, the whole movie is making fun of the fact that like people were like really up in arms over dirty words, but things like sex and violence weren't censored nearly as much. As a matter of fact, they were just kind of considered like part of the American way. But it was just like, yeah, it's just like kids just had access to like gratuitous violence and explicit sex scenes, but when it came to like cussing, it was like, oh no, that's too much. We can't have cussing in these movies. We got to do something about that. And so that's what I think about every time we struggle to get engagement on Facebook and Instagram. It's just like,
we're just like South Park.
yeah, but bitches love South Park. But anyway, I feel like we've talked y'all's ears off long enough. We got stuff to do. S-Pain's got to get to bed soon. So,
but I'm gonna say it again. Next month is my birthday on the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever Cowboys memorabilia, whatever Cowboys gear, tickets.
She needs a New Jersey.
I need a New Jersey. But at me. I will send you all of my Venmos and PayPals and Cash Apps and Zells and anything.
And once her birthday month gets.
Because now it's sad. Now it's a sad one. It's gonna stay in the closet.
I mean, I'm still wearing.
I'm gonna put it on until I get a new one. But by the way, Flame wears the DAC. Rocks that shit every time.
Nice. All right, well, on that note, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for joining us. Just a reminder, next week we probably will not be here Tuesday night. Got a special guest on Monday. That's going to be a very fun conversation. Got a special guest, I think, on Thursday, yet to be confirmed. But if it happens, that'll be a very fun conversation. And we'll see what happens with this possibly new Friday show. So follow us on Twitter to keep up with the updates. Until then, I'm Bitch2.
I'm Bitch1. Thanks, Martin, for the last comment.
What did he say? And we